Beards, Books, and Bourbon is a spoiler-rich environment. If you haven't read or listened to this book, then you should probably go ahead and do that, because we're going to talk about it, and we're going to say all the stuff that you don't want us to say. So go back and read it, or listen to it on audiobook, and then come back and listen to us. Thanks so much, and enjoy the show.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Beards, Books, and Bourbon. I'm Steven.
I'm Mark.
And we are excited to be with you once again on a super cold and chilly and frigid Chicago evening here in the garage studio.
And it's not even as cold as it's going to get.
Nope,
it's going to
get colder.
Colder.
So we're actually sitting further in the garage. We got a fire over there, and we're hoping that some of this is going to keep warm.
If we were in Greentown, Illinois right now, we'd be down in one of the ravines with the fire going
closer to the lake.
That's exactly
right on the lake,
with the wind blowing over us, but not on us. Yes.
We have an outstanding guest with us this evening, and we're going to introduce him in a minute and let him take the lead on introducing himself as well.
Yes.
But let's introduce our book, because we do have somebody with us tonight that is going to jump into the book analysis and conversation with us, in addition to tasting the wonderful bourbons that you see behind us here.
Indeed.
That were generously sent from Minden Mill.
Indeed.
So, this evening's book is Something Wicked This Way Comes, the 1962 classic written by Ray Bradbury, a neighbor of ours, 15 minutes down the road in Waukegan, Illinois, right on the lake.
Right.
And just a spectacular book that has influenced our guest this evening.
I mean,
as well as
you kind of make it sound like we go over to his place for barbecues.
We do. We do. And I'm going to live in that world and hope that
Right.
If we had been around when he was in his heyday, man, that would have been awesome.
I mean, technically we were.
I guess we were.
We were born in 75.
Yeah.
But by that point, he'd moved to California.
That's
by
right.
then.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And our bourbons this evening.
Oh my God.
We're going to introduce our guest here, but this is thanks to him and this wonderful distillery that we have access to.
There's a theme here, right? You'll get this one pretty quick. Here we go. Tonight's bourbon is Minden Mill Nevada Straight Bourbon Whiskey, 4-grain mash bill, 100% estate grown, distilled and aged in Minden, Nevada. Aged 4 years, non-chilled filtered, meticulously crafted, and individually small batch distilled. 47% alcohol by volume, 94 proof. And there's some stuff on the back. Let me read that to you. 100% estate-grown grains, 60% corn, 20% rye, 10% oats, and 10% barley. Forging a new frontier for American whiskey with our meticulous estate distilling process, our 4-grain mash bill bourbon is aged for 4 years in No. 3 charred new oak. Discover notes of cherry, cola, and vanilla with light spice and a long, sweet finish. And then tonight's rye is Minden Mill Nevada Straight Rye Whiskey, 100% estate-grown, distilled, and aged. Flip over to the back real quick, and here we go. Forging a new frontier for American whiskey with our new meticulous estate distilling process. Our rye is aged for 4 years in No. 3 charred new oak with aromas of candied fruit and spice for a long, lingering finish. And tonight's American single malt whiskey is Minden Mill, 100% estate grown, distilled, and aged 5 years. Forging a new frontier for American whiskey with our meticulous estate distilling process. Have you noticed that there is a meticulous estate distilling process involved with this? Our American single malt is distilled in Forsyth stills, aged 5 years in American and French oak casks, and has notes of coffee and almond with a long, evolving finish. And you might notice from the bottle that we have already tried this, and yeah, that's right.
And that is right. That's right. We can't wait to get that.
Absolutely correct.
And joining us this evening, straight from Minden Mill himself in Nevada, Joseph O'Sullivan. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, guys. Honestly, calling us meticulous might be the greatest amount. That's going to be the biggest flop and lie that I don't think there's anything meticulous in anything that you do when you're a distiller. You're a lot of the time just kind of like white knuckling it through the day and waiting for what breaks. And so
that's right.
Is very generous. I'd love some fluffery, but I'm not going to hold up to that one. We try our best, however, and sure, I mean, heck, we've been tricking people, so it seems like it's working.
It's working, and it's working really well because it gives us a taste that we can't wait to get back to this evening. And we're thrilled that you are, agreed to spend some time from your day and your evening in Nevada with us as we record here for the content that we provide for our listeners. So just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of open the show that way.
Yeah, so I'm Joe Sullivan. I'm here from Minden Mill Distilling. I'm the master distiller there. I work with this incredible team that, honestly, I've been in this industry for 20 years, and getting to work with these folks is humbling. I feel like I'm learning more every day. So we got this incredible, amazing team out here. But I started in 2005 under the tutelage of a man named Steve McCarthy at a place called Clear Creek Distillery. And Steve was really well known as like the third craft distiller in the U.S. He started Clear Creek in the late 80s and then continued it on until he sold to Hood River Distillers. But I was there from 2005 to 2010, moved to New York for a little while, consulted on some distilleries out there, ran a really wonderful gin place called Green Hook Gin Smiths. You can see, I'm always gonna drop the names of the that I'm like, I'm really proud of that. That was good stuff. And then came back to Hood River Distillers again. Probably the biggest part of my education was everything I learned there, which is overseeing Clear Creek, McCarthy's Oregon Single Malt, as well as all of their major brands like Pendleton. So I had this split shelf approach where I was looking at like the big mass market sellers plus the real erudite stuff. And being able to work with both of those was like possibly the most exciting thing a distiller could go through. Cause I think a younger me would have been like, something like Pendleton, something that's that broad. What do I have to learn from that? I make this thing that only 10 people really passionately like. Right. You have that philosophy. And and I gotta tell you, I learned more from that than I could ever have imagined. And then got hired on to run this place. Minden Mill is an estate distillery. It started in 2017 under a different name, a place called Bentley Heritage, but 2023, it was a victim of COVID and a few other things that just kind of it didn't work out for the folks that started this. But when it was purchased by Foley Family Wines in 2023, they asked me to come on. At the time, it was run by a really talented guy named Johnny Jeffrey, an old friend of mine. And I said, Johnny, I got offered this thing. Like, what do you think? And he was very supportive. So
that's great.
I've been part of this amazing crew ever since. And what we do different, and this is kind of the core of everything that we're trying to do as a, we're trying to educate out about what whiskey can be, but we're already learning so much because we're in a state distillery. Right. And, pardon me. Sorry, just had to clear my throat. What we're trying to do as an estate distillery is really work with this concept of terroir within grain. So we grow all of our own grain. As a matter of fact, in the state of Nevada, 85% of your fermentable goods has to be grown by you yourself within the state of Nevada if you're going to work under the estate distilling license. So we use our license if we don't adhere to this. And I bring that up not to like brag, but like I like limitations, the clear
it adds a sense of that
consequences. Consequences are cool. Like you could do cool stuff if you understand limitations. And so, that's what we're doing out here. And we've joined the University of Kentucky as the Estate Whiskey Alliance. EWA is something that you're going to be seeing a lot going forward because there's some pretty amazing folks behind it. And
we were just talking about that. My very, very close friend is Landon Borders, who's at the University of Kentucky.
Oh God,
and
Landon's the best.
Yeah, both his daughter and my older daughter share the same syndrome. I'm sure you know his family story a little bit. Both of our daughters have a rare syndrome, and Landon is amazing. Yeah, he and I have been friends for a very long time.
Gosh,
both on the journey with the challenges that both of our daughters have. We've served on the board for the Joubert Syndrome Foundation, but then also recently we did. He helped us connect with Bespoken Spirits in Kentucky to run a fundraiser bottle thing with them, where families could buy bottles of a particular blend that they blended for us. It was labeled under the foundation's label, and we raised some money for the foundation.
For real, can I still get that? Because I will order that immediately.
We can certainly. We're going to do another run coming up in the spring. I think we're going to gear up for another bottle. Yeah, and we'd like to work with Bespoken actually for the podcast too, and see if they'll run a blend for us as Beards, Books, and Bourbon. But Landon is amazing, and
you guys are way cooler than me. What the hell?
And we're not way cooler than Landon, so he might be carrying.
No, he is the coolest.
I'm gonna text him tonight and tell him that I was on the show with you.
I'm gonna also do the same the second.
It's fantastic.
We're gonna text bomb him. This is great podcasting, by the way. This is a great content for everyone out there.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
Thank you.
They're gonna love this.
We're celebrating Landon the way that Sal was celebrated on the studio.
Right. That's right. That's right. Do you want to start with? You want to start into the book? Let's launch into the book.
Yeah.
Let's go there because this is one of your favorites, Joe, as ours.
Ooh.
And then we can wrap back into the bourbon for our first tasting after we talk about the book for a few minutes here.
You know, it's hard for me to decide how we would want to start talking about one of the larger literary influences on my life as a kid.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I saw the movie as a kid, right? With Jason Robards,
Jonathan Pryce.
Jonathan Pryce.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And as a kid, that had a big effect on me. And
also Pat Greer. Don't forget, Pat Greer was the Dustler.
Yes.
She was amazing.
Yes. And then I read the book myself, I think when I was 12 or 13, and realized that there was so much more to it. I think that I don't know how to begin. Joe, how do you want to begin?
Well,
I think why I selected this book. So, maybe that's the best way. You gave me a lot of options, and I read a lot of books, and I specifically like genre fiction. I like science fiction. I like horror. I like fantasy. Like, I know I should be reading another Jonathan Franzen novel, but I really don't want to.
No.
So I'm just I just want to read things that make me identify with it. And I've been that way since as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And think, and I reckon there was a point, right? Like, if you're kind of a bookish kid and you grow up, and you said you're 75, I'm 78.
Yeah,
so we're all the same age. We were all in high school together.
Right.
You knew the nerdy kids, and there was groups of us, right? But the core break in the science fiction kids were Asimov and Bradbury.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I married an Asimov, just so you know.
Oh, did you
she's
really?
Technical. She's wonderful. It blows my mind. But I'm the emotional one that really wants to connect with the more esoteric horrors of the world. That to me, I loved reading the Veldt and all of these Bradbury stories, and somewhere in the middle is probably Philip K. Dick, because there's a lot going on there. But
there's a lot going on there. Right?
But when you asked me to pick this, it was like, okay, but here's the thing: I just read it last year, and so I read it at 13. I read it at 47. And
same. I haven't read it since 8th grade myself, right until this year, and it's a different. Yeah. It's a different piece.
It's very different now. I mean, now that my hair is gray, and I've got 3 kids of my own, it's very different now. It hits differently.
So just a quick overview for folks who haven't read it. Main characters: Will, Jim, Charles, and Mr. Black. So Will is Will Holloway.
Will Holloway.
He's nice and good. There's Jim. He's Will's best friend.
Yep. Which, by the way, I have always thought that was the coolest name for a character ever. Jim Nightshade.
Yes.
So great. So great.
Yeah. I wanted to be Jim Nightshade as a kid, but I was definitely Will Holloway. Like, I wanted to be the kid born on Halloween that was dangerous.
Absolutely.
That totally is it.
I had a friend who was definitely Jim Nightshade, and he wished I was more Jim Nightshade because I was always the one going, "Are you sure we should be doing this? I don't know. This seems kind of dangerous. Maybe we should just go home. Why are you climbing that fence right now?"
Right.
Just so you know, my mom's gonna get really mad, and
That's right.
My friends who knew that their moms were still gonna love them were the ones that really understood what was going on. I was a sucker. I believed her.
That's right. Let's go back. I seized on something that you said, and I think that might be a good breaking point for talking about Ray Bradbury first, right?
Yeah.
And the idea that we've come to identify with people, you yourself, Joe, you, Mark, myself. I know that I do. I'm a teacher, right? I identify more with emotion and with imagination and with kind of the esoteric rather than the scientific or the calculations or the theories and the theorems and the equations and so on and so forth. What do you think? What is your general feeling for why Ray Bradbury leaned into imagination and emotion more as part of his writing? Because it speaks to, a man like you and me and Mark differently than it might speak to my wife, for example. My wife seems to be similar to yours. She's a healthcare worker. She's a scientific mind, a logical mind, and I am so opposite that. And I identify with the imagination and the emotional part of Ray Bradbury's writing.
I'm right down the middle.
So if you had to ask me, I think it's between the people who are comfortable not knowing and the people who need to know.
Yes.
And for me, as a Bradbury fan, I know I can never know things. No matter how hard I try, I can work to understand and philosophize and research, but it's still foreign. And that is not just applicable to the larger world, but ourselves. And to me, that's why his books are so interesting and why it's been so crazy to read this now 35 years later and say, holy shit, I'm Charles.
Right.
Because I'm dealing with mortality. Right. I mean, it's just an amazing book.
So I do the same, I do the same thing so I teach, I for most of my career, I was a university professor. And then about 8 years ago, I switched over to high school. So I teach at a local high school over here, and I teach French language and literature. And Mark has heard this story before. It's a similar, we just finished in one of my honors classes.
I'm going to go read a book. I'll be back when he's done.
The Little Prince, right? And you've either heard of The Little Prince or you haven't heard of The Little Prince. And it's the same type of thing. Later, 40 years later, the reading of it is so much different than when I first read it when I was in 8th grade or 7th grade, right?
Yep.
And you taste a different flavor of these books as you age. And Ray Bradbury speaks to you differently now than he did when we were adolescents. And that's the amazing part.
Entirely, but it's so surprising to me who does it, right? So I also in the same year reread Valis, the Philip K. Dick book.
Yeah.
Which when I was I was in college and I was reading Philip K. Dick, and boy was I hyper psychonaut in my opinion, But now I reread it and Valis didn't resonate with me in the same way. I didn't gain on it. As a matter of fact, I found it really good, but more just a really clever storytelling. It lacked the prose, it lacked the humanity. And I haven't found a book like this that I've reread that hit me differently as an adult, because I also have reread lots of I'm on a Stephen King thing lately. So I've been rereading
You got to go back
I've
and
been-
listen to a couple of our episodes. Our first 2 episodes were the
We've been on a
Shining
Stephen
and
King thing for 5 years now.
Oh yeah.
Oh geez, I know. I sped through The Shining like I was loving it, but
it's fantastic.
You know, I learned a lot from it, but it was more like I was dumber as a kid. I didn't get it as a kid. With this, like I feel like I still really got Jim and Will, and now I really get Charles, and so the book has grown with me, and it's just different in a way that I haven't seen really come out. And we haven't even talked about the big baddie of the book, because I don't want anyone to think that this is not like genuinely a scary book at times.
It is,
because
it is.
Mr. Black is horrifying.
It is
right.
Well, and I forgot how terrifying the Dust Witch was, and that was a flashback memory for me when I got to that part, and I had not realized that I had buried that probably in the back of my mind over time, right? And it kind of regenerated. So, with that said,
it's Cougar and Dark's Pandemonium Circus,
right? Cougar and Dark's Pandemonium Circus.
Yes.
Yes.
It's interesting because what I never noticed before when I read it as a teen, and then going back and reading it now, is that Mr. Dark is that he's not a flat villain. There is more going on behind his eyes. There's more that's happening, and his final exit. That scene that happens at the very end where everything is falling apart around him. When the circus starts to implode, there's a line in there that says that there were a number of things in Mr. Dark's expression, and it could have been that just a little bit was relief. And then they go on to explain, it's the three of them standing in the field, and the circus is gone, but the carousel is still there. It's kind of ratty and broken down, but it's still operable. And they start thinking about, well, if we just went a couple years forward, then Will would be bigger, right? Or if you went 5 years forward, then Jim would be the adult that he wants to be.
Right.
Or you go 20 years back and Charles can finally be the young man that he always wanted to be. But then you start to love it, and you start to do it again and again. And then you start to invite your friends. And then soon you're the owner of the carousel, and you become Mr. Dark. I love that. I'm starting at the end of the book. I know, but spoilers.
No, I mean you've clued on to what the core theme of this is, which is aging and what that matters, and I think why it works so well as a young reader versus an adult reader, which is like Jim so badly wanting to be older, and of course we're identifying with Will. He's kind of the protagonist, so we're really in his eyes. But with Jim wanting to be older, but at the same time, Charles, Will's dad, like he doesn't want to be younger because he wants to be a kid again. He wants to be younger so he can hang out with his son, because he's 52. Which at the time in 1962 was probably a very different
older age
now. But he was really tired and he felt his age. And I think all of us, like born in the 70s, that's an insane thing to say. I think all of us are really kind of starting to come to that moment. Yes. And given the option in like, what is it worth to go back and how does it change you, was a really interesting thing, because there are people who are changed, and even Will is partially changed. And I think, no, we're not going to spoil the ending. Never mind.
No, spoil away. They've had several years.
I guess it's been around for 6-year book.
We can spoil. You know what you say, Joe, resonates. Like you just said something, and it gives me a couple chills here, because we're arriving at that crossroads that Charles is at. Right, we're arriving at that moment in our lives. I'm going to be. I was born in 1974, so I'm the old man in this group, right?
That's right.
And
old.
And I look at my son and my 2 daughters, and I'm like, wow, we're now in high school, and I'm like, okay, now we're in this stage where I'm moving forward. And you mentioned Stephen King, and a lot of the themes. There's another book too that Mark and I reviewed. I think it was in season 1, maybe season 2. It was Blake Crouch. He wrote Recursion. And it's this whole idea of wanting to start over, wanting to have some type of control to rejuvenate and replenish the relationships.
You can go back in time and you can make a change, but you kill the entire timeline by doing
it, right? But even the relationship between father and son in The Shining and in Doctor Sleep, is intense, right? I mean, those relationships evolve over time, and through Charles, and through Jim, and through Will, and Mr. Dark. Mr. Dark is not only an intense protagonist, he's a reflection of who we all are.
Antagonist.
Yes. Who's a reflection? He's a reflection of who we all are in some way and at some point in our lives.
Right.
The different fears, the different processes, the different journeys. He represents who we all are.
Carrying his past and his circle of friends or minions literally on his skin, the illustrated man.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean he's a manifestation of regrets as well as temptation and desire. Like he all of the carnal things are there. And of course I think it's Will that he's showing the dancing lady to.
Yes.
Yep.
Like at one point, like, yeah, we know that lady's naked. It's not said, but we know she's naked. Like that's part of what he's doing. And that's about as close as you get to. One thing I really love about Bradbury, I have to say at this moment, is that, like, as much as I've read, he can talk and kind of guide around these ideas of growing up and growing older. Yes. And, Stephen King will always do it in some sort of really cringy, hilarious,
in many ways,
scene
sure.
That guy has the most ridiculous names for boobs. Like, he just cannot help but make it really uncomfortable for the reader.
But like you always kind of lower the book in that second, and you're like, hey, should I really keep reading this?
Oh no!
Yeah, okay.
Those are the ones I highlight on my Kindle because I want a solid collection of just really bad sex scenes from Stephen King books. But when Bradbury introduces the same sort of concepts of growing older, he's much more poetic. He kind of goes around it, and I think it's still actually more impactful. Well, and so like. That's what he's in. So he's taking this young child, Dark, and he's enticing him to what adulthood is.
Right. Well, he's enticing the entire town. He's enticing the children with the future. He's enticing the adults with the past and the regrets that they would love to change. Right.
Yep.
The things that they never got to do, the things that they wish that they hadn't have done, right? The decisions that they wish they could have made differently. And that's how each of them fall into that trap. Going back to what you said about Bradbury's writing, I have always felt that Ray Bradbury's writing was like poetry with dialogue, because he would have straight dialogue, very intelligent, but straight dialogue for his characters. And then the description around that dialogue is straight up poetry. It is lyrical prose, and I think that's a quality that Bradbury has that I have not seen with other authors.
I agree entirely. I've kind of in my mind paired him alongside David Lynch. In many ways, but it's because and I'm not talking about like the really horrific things, but there are moments in all of his movies that are beautiful, and then he has Straight Story, which is actually kind of Bradbury-esque in its timing. It's patience, and it's a reflection. And so if you like one, you'll like the other. But each of these people, it's almost like they were just trying to write that one paragraph, and that's all that mattered. Right. But it came kind of easier than it would for any other human being. I'm sure it was a lot of work, but I could never do this stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we could talk about it. And if we think about, and I'm gonna guide us to the bourbon now for a moment. So if we think about the emotion and the imagination and the colorful, poetic waxing of Ray Bradbury, what are those things? What are the emotions and the imagination that has brought you to distilling? And
what did you pick up? And what did you pour there?
Oh, I got the same order as you suggested. I got the bourbon, the rye, the single.
You got the bourbon.
Perfect.
Here.
Okay.
So let's wax poetic in the tasting of the bourbon. What is some of the creativity and some of the imagination that brings this Minden Mill Nevada straight bourbon whiskey to the forefront of our tasting tonight?
So it's been one of the greatest honors of being part of Minden Mill is the fact that I get to represent so many good people. I tried to introduce with that, and I really want that to be clear, because this is a huge teamwork, and I'm a big believer in representing a lot of folks and making sure that this people understand this is from a region, painting that aspect of poetry, but it really comes down to also ingredients. And so I want you to consider with the bourbon, the corn that we use. We're an estate distillery, right?
Right.
And as I said, that means that 85%. I just want people to understand it's something that it's real. Like estate isn't just fluffery. And we're growing this grain because we know it has a distinct quality from this region. We believe in this, and so does everyone that knows Landon. So we really want to make sure that comes through. And when you try a bourbon, consider the fact that we're using something called Earth Tones dent corn, where a yellow dent corn, wonderful corn. I'm not gonna say is good or bad, but there's something really special about these earth tone corns, which have a lot more carotenoids, anthocyanins, these really interesting tannins that are produced, these interesting pigments. They range from like a dark bruise blue to not a jumpin' Jimmy red kind of red, but like a dark orange, and everything in between. Lots of greens too. Green is really amazing because it's this frog skin green. I know that sounds so gross, but to me,
that sounds fascinating.
We're talking about Ray Bradbury. I'm gonna call it frog skin green.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
He would love that.
It's Martian Chronicles corn.
That's
fine.
right.
It's fine.
Yeah, and so that comes across with a lot more almost baking spice qualities, and I want you, when I taste the bourbon, to think about cherry cola. So let's start with that. And then ultimately, by the end of this, I just want you. I want to talk about the watershed, because that, and more than anything, is the place. So to the bourbon.
And Landon says hello, by the way. I just texted him.
He's a good dude.
I do get cherry cola. I do get it. And the vanilla is mixed in there with it. And then right after that, I get spice. And then the spice kind of
I get a mulling.
And then it kind of it smooths out, and then I get this sweet aftertaste. I get
very sweet.
Yeah, on the finish.
Yeah, sweetness is we're a sweet distillery, never cloying, mind you, but like embracing fruit is definitely something part of our flavor profile.
Yeah,
and proudly, like this is just a direction that a lot of people don't want to explore. Like, embrace the damn fruit. There's cool stuff in there.
It is lovely, and we had not opened this bottle until just now.
Right.
So this is a first taste for us.
The only one we couldn't wait on the single malt. We had to try that one.
Although, I don't know. Yeah, and we got a pretty sizable. Was Minden Mill at? That's where we met them at the Bourbon Fest here in Grays Lake.
We did. We met them at the Bourbon Fest in Grays Lake. In the summer.
Hayden, you met Hayden, my boy. Hayden.
That's right. Yep, that's right. So we tasted it then, I'm pretty sure.
We did. And that
such a smooth after flavor for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It stays.
So, we have. I name names. It's worth naming names. Our distilling team. It's Noya, Bryce, Chelsea, really talented folks, and then John Crumbly, our blender. We all work together, The great thing about being a master distiller is that you get to get 10% of everything, but that means that there's people doing 90% of everything too.
Right.
And so it's just that overview thing. Like, I'm really into farming right now, and I trust John, and I know he does a really good job.
Yeah.
So the design of this is always like there is a sit down. We do talk. We do sit together and be like, okay, what's going on with this blend? Do we need to remove one of this type of barrel if it's a single malt? And I don't want to get too far into it.
Right. Well, I love the idea that it all comes from, not necessarily a single plot, but in a grander scale, one plot of ground, right? So,
Right.
and it's crops that are grown there, and it's all,
it's
that
one
whole
valley.
idea.
It's
Yes.
all within the
Right.
Carson Valley.
Yes.
When you're pretty sizable, I was reading on the website you're about 1,200 acre estate ish, so it's a pretty sizable estate location that you're
Yeah.
at.
Yeah, up
And
to it goes around a little bit. 1,200
yep,
is the max. We usually go between 800, 1,200 just to make sure that
yep,
if we don't need stuff, we ain't gonna grow. But the
right.
rye is our biggest, and so I've been really focusing on on just kind of the botany of rye growth.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed that on the mash bill, you have 10% oats.
Yes. 10% oats. It really does kind of smooth out a lot of the flavor.
That's what. Yeah, that's
early
what
batches have that. Like the early batches have this really nice. It smooths out the flavor. It's kind of like barley in that way that it fills in a lot of voids on the profile. It just really has nice contributions to the how it goes down and gives it a little bit more viscosity on the tongue.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really good.
So, and forgive me if this is a stupid question or one that I should potentially know, but you use the word terroir, and terroir is on your website.
Mm-hmm.
And terroir is most often associated with wine, whether it be French wine or California wines or whatever. And I think it's quite amazing and really innovative that you're introducing terroir, into the bourbon world. Is it getting more common? Is it something that is really at the heart of where bourbon distillers are trying to go? Does it set you apart from others?
So there's a couple of things in that, and ultimately, yes, it's always in the nature of any business to want to set themselves apart, and
Sure.
sometimes that sense of, I don't know, pride does drive some really interesting positive changes, and so that's a really good thing. Like, yeah, like I agree. This is a really great opportunity to stand apart, but it also means that, like, because it's a good opportunity, we also get to do the really cool experiment, and it's all of those things. But it's worth going back to kind of the start of it, which was within brandy, and at fruit brandies as they came across in the United States. And I don't mean grape brandies as much, but the fruit brandies. You had Laird's it was a Laird's Applejack out of the Northeast. You had Clear Creek, where I was trained with our pear brandy and our apple brandy. You had St. George, the folks that came right before Clear Creek, and my friend Dave with all of his pear and apple. And then you see more regional expressions. Like, if you hit around the United States, there's always going to be some sort of local small eau de vie distiller that never got recognized for setting the foundation for this. And so it was already there in distilling from the beginning. It just didn't have the cash because, quite honestly, like, money's in bourbon in the United States. And every single person who's in the distilling industry, I don't want you to think anyone's like, there's like a conniving little group of bourbon distillers, like, including me. No, like, we all are also brandy distillers. It's not like there's no separation. Exactly, the Illuminati. It's not like anything like that. We all came from the same roots in this industry, and so there is definitely a little bit of an admiration for that work being done early on by the brandy distillers. And I always encourage people out there, like, listen, if you're a bourbon drinker, find your nearest little weird distillery that's making eau de vie and just go enjoy it, because it's coming from only that one spot. That's like, it's cool as hell. You can't really expect cherries to be shipped in cold storage for a number of months and be good. Like, it doesn't work. Later it has to happen at that time, at that moment. So,
in that moment.
So pardon me, I'm on my soapbox about recognizing American eau de vie.
As you were talking, I was looking at our window that shows us, and when you had said it all goes back to brandy, then there's these two graybeards who both at the same time go,
Oh man, the brandy. As I age.
right.
Oh yeah. It's one of the joys. But yeah, with the Estate Whiskey Alliance and everything that we're doing at Minden to do the same amount of work. One of the reasons it started with brandy is that if you want to make a barrel of plum slivovitz, like get one tree. Like there's so much fruit coming off of a plum tree that you can't eat.
Right.
If you've ever had one in your backyard, you kind of curse it. Like that's why it was turned into brandy. But if you're gonna make a barrel of if you're going to make a barrel of rye, you need like 1,000 pounds of rye.
Right.
So that's a lot of land. That's a tremendous amount of land. And of course, it's coming to this later on. But of course, this has always been like the heart and soul of the American distilling market is bourbon and whiskey.
Right.
But anyway, that being said, it's just, this is where the money is, and this is what we're really putting into it. And so I get to represent part of that, and it's amazing to be part of this inaugural class from the EWA and everything that they've put together.
That's amazing.
It's just a really, it really is cool. And I truly believe in the concept of terroir. So the science is being done. The key part of this is that the EWA is actually a scientific organization that is doing the work to prove what our statement is. It's not just additional fluffery. Everyone has to deal with it in life, but that's never been my favorite thing is fluffed up. But in this case, it's like, we're really doing the work. I'm really proud to be part of it. I'm really proud our distillery is too.
That's great.
I love that.
That's great.
You want to switch back over to the book?
Let's go back to the book.
All right.
So let's jump into the story a little bit, right? So we've got Jim and Will, who are kind of our icons of innocence, and at the same time also kind of our icons of the possible future of light and dark, right? And it's in Jim's name, right? Jim Nightshade, right? And neither one of them has the traditional nuclear family. Right. Jim's dad is not present. He has his mother, and he's constantly worried about her, and she is worried about him.
Yep.
You have Will's family, where his mother is younger, his father is older, and his father can't seem to get past the fact that he is older, and like we said, he's 52 years old, and in 1962, that probably meant something, because in 1962,
it meant something to Bradbury, yeah.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, people would retire when they were 65, and they would be dead by their 66, at least for men. The men really didn't last very long.
Yeah.
And between 1962 and now, the lifespan of men have only increased by about 15 years.
Right.
So you've got he can't get over that. He is kind of stuck on it, and it affects his relationship with his son, which is ironic because he never wanted it to affect his relationship. He wanted to have a different relationship, and so much so that he's blind to the fact that his son doesn't care. His son just wants his dad. And so you've got two kids, they're kind of being the icons of these two different ideas. They're both from non-traditional families, and it kind of pulls everybody in a way that in the way that Bradbury does, where he recognizes that the nuclear family is in many ways, for many people, a myth. And so you have a family that is non-traditional, and so it draws those people in. And you've got these two boys who are enjoying youth, and then a carnival comes to town, and there's a lot of lyrical poetry that goes on leading up to that. Do you want to talk about the poetry leading up to that? Because there is a lot. It's him painting us a portrait of what our town looks like, and the people in it. And the people that they think they are, or they think that they want to be, and then Cougar and Dark rolls into town, and everybody starts thinking about the road not traveled, right? But
yeah.
How do you feel about kind of the lead up to all of that?
I mean, everything about that part of the book is it carries a weight, because you're dealing with the internal struggles of so many characters, and when they arrive, you understand that was really a build up to something else. And there's one segment of it that I'm going to read that I always loved, which was about the Autumn people, and honestly, like I've also like I even almost said beware the Autumn people. And so I'll read this now, which is, for some, autumn comes early, stays late through life, where October follows September and November touches October. And then instead of December and Christ's birth, there is no Bethlehem star, no rejoicing, but September comes again, and old October, and so on down the years, with no winter, spring, or reviving summer. For these beings, fall is the ever normal season, the only weather. There be no choice beyond. Where they come from? The dust. Where they go? The grave. Does blood stir in their veins? No, the night wind. What ticks in their head? The worm. What speaks from their mouth? The toad. What sees from their eyes? The snake. What hears from their ears? The abyss between stars. They shift the human storm for souls, eat flesh of reason, fill tombs with sinners. They frenzy forth. In gusts they beetle, scurry, creep, thread, filter, motion, make all moons sullen, and surely cloud all clear. Run waters, the spider web hears them, trembles, breaks. Such are the autumn people. Beware them.
Oh, that's where we're ending the show.
And I remember reading that.
All right, everybody.
I mean, come on. It's like, that to me, if you can't genuinely fear the esoteric existential darkness that he's trying to convey in something.
Yes.
In what the autumn people are, but also the temptation. Like, it's very clear. There is no beginning. There is no end. There is only the warmth of early autumn.
Yes.
It never even gets into November. Like, let's be clear. September is only part autumn. And so he's really talking about a feeling. And to me, I don't know, man, that to me is like one of the key parts of loving this book.
Well, it's the in between. It's the in between. It's not summer. It's not winter.
Right.
We're not kids, but we're not adults yet.
Let me just say, your audition was fabulous, and we definitely want to have you on as a co-host for other shows later on.
Yes, we can do this at any time. I will definitely come back for this. I'm not joking.
We can have a regular, reoccurring co-host here.
That's right. You've nailed the part.
As much as we do. Yeah.
Listen, I just
want to spend your time talking about books and not get paid for anything. You're in.
I want to be your Macaulay Culkin to your Red Letter Media. Like, that's all I want to do.
That's right.
I was hoping that if we can do this again, I'm definitely down.
That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
That would be awesome.
So it's interesting that you picked that passage, because that passage is so iconic within the world of people who read, people who are into genre fiction, particularly into fantasy, that back in the 1990s, there was a role-playing game publisher called White Wolf.
Oh yeah.
And White Wolf produced a role-playing game called Changeling the Dreaming, and it was about fantasy fairy type characters who were attempting to live in the darkness of the 1990s. And the primary antagonist within Changeling the Dreaming were people called Autumn people, who had no sense of creativity, no spark of life, that they were constantly stuck in the stasis of decay without death. So the in-between. Yes, it's the in-between.
It's the in-between. It's totally deep.
Exactly. Which going back to what we were talking about before about whether we're Asimov or Bradbury, I'm the guy who's right in the middle, because what I love is the idea that you've got characters who are explaining things scientifically, that there's all this knowledge that leads up to a certain point, and then at that certain point, to go any further, it takes a leap of faith. You have to let go of everything that you knew or thought you knew before, and you have to jump into the darkness and see what's on the other side. That is what's most compelling for me.
Would it be fair to say you're a Stanislav Lem?
Yes.
If you
yes.
Like, I mean, Solaris, it's all of that sort of stuff. It's science up to the point of the fact that you understand that communication between different entities is
and then
completely impossible no matter what, and then observing what that means.
Yes.
Like it's
Yep.
God, there's so many books to talk about. Why are we doing this?
There's too many books. Well, that means you have to be back on.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
That means
exactly. You've got to create a top 10 list for us again, and then we're going to figure that out.
There's going to be some really dark stuff on there that you probably don't want to read, but that's, no. I'll try to make it tame.
Up to a certain extent, it's fine. We can do that. I like to read horror. I also am a big fan of grimdark. So gore doesn't bother me so much.
It's only as existential stuff. There's a great book out there called Negative Space by B.R. Yeager that I always tell people to read. But it's Oh, okay, good, great, okay, good. So we're good.
So now I have not read it yet.
Nor have I.
I know a lot about it. It's on my TBR. I just haven't gotten around to it. But yes.
Wonderful. We're good.
We're bringing out what are we bringing out? The rye?
Are we doing the rye?
Yeah.
We're getting
I'm going to stoke our fire for a moment.
We're getting a little more concentrated in our mash bill. Instead of 4 ingredients, we're going down to 1 ingredient. Yeah. Oh. It's too cold to smell anything from the bottle.
The rye is 3 ingredients.
Is it?
It's 80 winter rye, and then it's going to be 10 barley, 10 wheat. I know we've debated about putting that on the back or not. I think in the future editions, I'm still going to push for putting it on the back.
I think that's going to make it interesting, though.
Yes, it's very much for purpose, and it's to showcase. I'm going to go back to the whole idea of terroir and why we're doing this.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the understanding of terroir within whiskey is going to be, it's going to be slightly different. We all know that it's going to be slightly different between wine and whiskey when it finally finds its foundation and its shape.
Sure.
But one of the cool things that it really does have to do with grain, is specifically rye, is it's dry as heck out here, and it's an incredibly dry spot. And I, at the end, I do want to talk about the watershed, because ultimately that's like the heart that ties it all together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, not to completely interrupt you, but honestly, when we first heard about Minden Mill and we heard about the fact that it was in Nevada, the first question I had was, how do they manage to grow that?
Right.
I mean, that's what I talked to Landon about this a few weeks ago. Maybe now's just the time. I mean, so it's a very dry place, but which means that with our rye, and I'm going to cut what I was going to talk about that short. But a rye is often very susceptible to mold, and so you get these really interesting flavors that come out. None of which are bad, but it's an element in the flavor profile because there's different amount of fungal load that they can take.
Is it a little bit like cheese and how when it's fermenting and some of them have mold built into them, some of them have some type of fungal growth built into them?
I wouldn't say as far as that. It's just I think it's a lot more innocent than that. It's just like grain tastes differently because of the microbiome that's around it.
Yes.
Rye is kind of is one that shows it really well, right? Like it's none of it's I think it's far more less designed and way more worthy of celebrating the differences in rye grain
Yeah,
than something like that.
I know enough about farming to know that there's a cornfield half a mile that way.
Right. That's my extent.
I don't know much more than that at this point either, but I'm learning, and I'm trying to be as good of a student as I can. But one of the really cool things about our rye is that because it's 11% humidity, we really have a very clean rye flavor, and in the rye whiskey, it manifests more as kind of a candied orange. So that sweetness of
for sure. Oh yeah, for sure.
The sweetness of the fruit that I talked about.
Yeah,
it's still there, but instead of kind of the black pepper, you get much more of a citrus rind in a very pleasant way. And when I say candied orange, I don't mean orange candy.
Right.
I mean, if you
like
cure a very
peel,
thin orange slice in sugar for a long time and it crystallizes and all that sugar soaks in, and it just is like this delicious natural candy. It's one of my favorite things in the world.
Right. Well, so Stephen and I, since that we've been doing this for over 5 years now, what I was telling to him about a month or two ago was that every time I went to the liquor store, I'm walking down the aisle of all the bourbons, and it's kind of, well, we've done that label, we've done that label, we've done that label, we've done that label, and I finally decided, you know what, I need to let this field regrow. And I need to go around the corner, and I need to go down the rye aisle and see what we can find.
Well, we've become big fans of rye.
Right. And originally I liked rye. It really wasn't Stephen's bag, but now we found so many different ryes that are embracing that idea of fruit inside of it in one way or another to different degrees, that we're finding things that we didn't realize could actually be there. And so it's been kind of a delight for us that this world has opened up.
Yeah, and it's definitely it's worth kind of reading about the history of rye in the United States, and the Whiskey Rebellion, and just kind of its place in American distilling history is really interesting, and it's something that's really worth celebrating and learning about. It is how it's shaped the American history itself, and why it didn't take off right away compared to bourbon. Yeah. There's a lot to be said in that discussion, and I think it's worth reading up on, because it's a fun experience. But I do want to get back to what I was saying about the watershed, because this is ultimately what I want people to understand. I get this a lot, which is like, how do you do this in the high desert? It's dry, but we are within this little oasis that goes along the Carson River, which is fed by the snowmelt that comes off of the Sierra Nevada, and that feeds the east and west fork of the Carson River, and they meet in Minden, which is where our distillery is. And we even at the height of summer, I mean, we'll get our well still filling up at 150 gallons a minute. Of course, any amount of climate influence on things like, I think I'm hyper vigilant about it. I think I stress. Of course I do. Like, it's important to me, not just for our distillery, but for everything. And so I'm aware of where we're at, but it's incredible because this water source doesn't it's massive, and it's a really interesting one. And because it doesn't terminate in a river or a sea or anything like that. It terminates just in a massive marshland, a basin. And that's out by where Frey Ranch is. And so one of the things one of the things for whatever reason I've been kind of fall in love with it is that we're sharing the same water source. At different points along it, and how even within that one Carson River watershed, like, there's little interesting expressions of terroir, because their soil's a lot more alkaline than ours. It has more salt, and so like they have different growing stuff.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, when you put it that way, you start to think about the ecology that this water runs through, all the different ecologies. Mm-hmm. It starts off as snow, and then it melts and it runs down the mountains and it's collecting minerals as it goes, and then it comes into rivers, and it's going through different terrains and different territories.
Thinking of all those flavors,
all those different flavors, all those different elements,
pieces of the earth.
Yes,
as it heads towards you,
I imagine that it's a chemistry that you can't necessarily reproduce, because it's slightly different every year. It's got to be.
Oh Also, like, stop reproducing stuff. Just do your own thing. Like, it's just
Yeah,
amazing that it can be that wild. Like, why try to copy it? Just let it do it.
Yeah.
And also, it should be something that is to love something like that and to understand the connection that something you experience has to the world, that it does really ground you a little bit. And so
Yeah.
to know that this is grown in a spot in the high desert where it's totally possible. I mean, as easy as other places? No, not at all. But like,
Right.
we're not, we're also not, we're not pulling off of a limited aquifer at the moment.
Right.
We're off something renewable. I mean,
Right.
we're LEED Gold certified. And our distillery is, like, we really take this seriously. But it doesn't just suit us. It suits Frey down the river is amazing. And it just, to me, showcases why every state can kind of have its own distinct idea.
Absolutely.
This is a lovely pour. I mean, this is a really good pour.
Let's officially try some of the rye. Cheers to the rye. To the rye.
Orange
so,
peel.
yeah, that orange.
There it is.
Come on,
there's that candied orange
right there.
And
it's lovely.
I love candied orange peels as a treat,
as a snack,
right? As a snack, and whenever I taste it in a rye or a bourbon, I'm instantly sold because I love it so much. This is so good.
Man, I would be that ratty little kid that would eat all the glazed oranges off of something. Like, I was that off the cake. Like, I was in that way. I was, I was the Jim Nightshade. That was the one way that I went the wrong direction.
Right.
And so having it here in our rye,
it feels so good. Yeah.
It is pretty amazing.
Well, since we're sipping the rye, I feel like why don't we talk about Charles Calloway as a character and his development a little bit. And the reason why I think of that is because when I think of rye, I think of things being a little more concentrated, a little more distilled, right? That the flavor profile really kind of punches you in the face and then leaves you memories behind to really contemplate after it's gone. And that makes me think of Charles.
Very much.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, that's really good.
We talked about the fear of aging. We talked about the fear of the in between. Like, you're not an adult, you're not a child, you're not winter, you're not summer, right? You're the in between. And we talked about how Charles is afraid of aging. He's
it's so funny that he's 52.
Well, I know. And
he's so young.
That speaks to the time that it was written, right?
Right, absolutely.
But Charles has an immense amount of courage that comes later in the book, right? He faces this fear, he faces the darkness, he faces his mortality, and he faces his regret with a courage that is intense.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny because in some ways I am almost the opposite of Charles. I have been waiting my entire life to be this age. I finally feel like when I look in the mirror, my face matches my personality and who I am. Yeah. But at the same time, being on this earth for half a century, there are regrets that I have. There are decisions that I made that I wish that I had gone a different direction. Things that I shouldn't have done, things that I should have done. And so in that case, I can very much kind of put myself into Charles's shoes. I can also put myself into Charles's shoes because now, very in particular, my son is about to turn 15. He's in high school. He's on the wrestling team. He and I have always kind of play wrestled when he was a little kid. Yeah. And now it's to the point where, like, he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, I want to show you a new move I just learned." And then he pauses and he goes, "Dad, I promise I won't hurt you." Like, what?
Yeah.
Ouch. Yeah. You You don't know it. You just did.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I something happened to me about 3-4 months ago, where I was in San Francisco, and I assumed I was getting a migraine or something like that because I couldn't see shit. Like I just couldn't see anything. I was trying to write in my journal. Like I was like I try to journal. I don't think anyone does.
Every day I do.
Like,
every day.
Do you really? That's a
Every day,
lot.
man. I have to process things. Even if, and mind you, Joe, even if it's 1 or 2 sentences in the morning, that might be my only entry. But this afternoon I came
for
home from
you.
school and I wrote a page, and tomorrow I'll probably write a sentence. But I have to. It processes. It's the only way that I can face my days sometimes.
And I don't journal, but I just write books.
Yeah.
I've got 3 published, and I've got 4 manuscripts that I'm still working on, and I need to. One of these days, I'm going to publish those too.
Well, there you go.
I definitely want to read some books. We're going to make this happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I might be the only lame ass that only tries at best. Like I get, 3 out of 7 days is probably.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That's better than
now
most.
I'm totally derailed. What the heck was what were we talking about?
You were in San Francisco. You had a migraine.
Yes. I couldn't read anyway, so I couldn't read, and I realized.
Can we come back to that?
Yeah, I realized it was in. So I couldn't read. I could not see what was in front of me. I realized I need reading glasses, and I swear to God, the 6 weeks that's happened between then and now has been the most traumatic amount of just physical decline I've ever experienced in my life. It's been all at once. It's insane.
Yes.
What are you? At 1 point? Are you 1.75 or 2.0? I'm at 1.75.
Listen, I'm like 3-4 years younger. Please don't make this sound like worse than it's going to be.
It adds a lot of wisdom to your face.
I tell you what. I am over and past that hill. Yep. I am to the point. I've been wearing glasses since I was 15 years old. I'm now to the point where, in order for me to be able to, I need the glasses to see the TV, right, or to drive the car. But when I'm going to read a book, I now have to take the glasses off and hold the book like this, because trying to. I even got progressives, right? The problem is that in order to use the progressives properly, I've got to hold the book like down here, and I keep my head up, and I'm trying to look through the bottom of the glasses, and that guarantees a headache. So I just have to take the glasses off.
I forgot to mention this is also while I'm wearing contacts.
Well, same. I got contacts.
Okay, good. So we're on the same page.
We're with you. We're on the same journey, man.
There you go.
This is great. There with you.
Welcome to the club.
Oh, brothers, I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my! That's why we have bourbon in our glasses.
Well, heck.
But we face it with the courage.
So let's get back to Charles. Because
Charles,
honestly, that's why I brought this book, and it was the first one on my list. I think I gave you 10.
Yeah.
And this was number 1, because to me, I was like, this is just a foundational part of reading. Now as an adult, reading this book and seeing it from both perspectives. I genuinely think this should be required reading for everybody. Like,
oh gosh,
I also don't think it's a distinctive, and I don't think that there's things that would be. I don't think that this is an inaccessible book to people who to people who aren't men. Either. Right. I think there's a lot to understand. Like this is just life experience.
Yeah,
and so. This to me is like one of those ones where I was talking to my wife. I was like, please read this book. It really has, reading it as an adult now is very different. And that's why I put this at the top.
I mean, for me,
Charles is a very different character now than he was. And even his desires and what he wants are very different. And there's the scene, and I wanted to really get to make sure we talked about this. Sorry to cut you off.
No. But, keep going, because you and I might be thinking about the same thing.
When Dark is offering him I will take 20 years off your life.
Yes.
And he, if you tell me where Will he?
Yes.
He refuses to do it, and for every second that he withholds Will's location, he loses more of his personal ego desire.
Yes.
It goes away.
Yes.
And just that defines Charles in a way that he always seemed to view himself as something lacking.
Yes.
But in the end, he was something phenomenal. And I think he's a model figure for a good father. I mean, there's lots.
Absolutely.
I think.
Well, and that's
I think there's
strength of
cultural
which he
things that are
thinks-
represented in the entire text
Yeah,
that I'm just like, like people don't talk like that anymore. But the core of who he is something really exceptional. And
that core and that power and that courage transcends time. When you and I and you read this for the first time, we were teenagers looking at Charles as a father. Yeah. Now we are men looking at Charles as us,
a peer.
Us.
Yes, and again, I do want to make sure, like, I don't think this is just a guy's book. Like, I think there's a lot.
No.
Book just
but
about
our journey is similar. Yeah.
Well, but I do think, particularly for guys, like, if you were just kind of a sensitive kid growing up, like, I hope you read this book then, and I really encourage you to read it again. Like, it's good.
Well, so to expand upon what you were talking about, that scene is one of my favorite scenes. That scene ends, with Dark ruining Charles's hand, right? So that I think it's his left hand. The left hand can't, he basically crushes it. It can't work anymore. That's it. It's done. But then after the mirror maze and he makes it through that crucible, he comes forward and he's going to shoot the rifle that's supposed to kill the Dust Witch.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. Can I have a volunteer? There's no volunteers. And then there's Will Calloway, or not Will, there's Charles Calloway at the back going, I'll do it. And he comes up and Mr. Dark says, well, you only have one arm. You can't hold this rifle. You need two hands to hold this rifle. And so he calls his son forward. And Will comes up on stage. And there's that moment where Charles says, I can't do this without you. And he makes Will a part of who he is, and together they are stronger, and he's kind of imparting this wisdom between the two of them. And Will's not completely out of Dark's control yet. He's almost kind of like a sleepwalker, but he's getting pulled into this, and this is how this is part of how Charles gets Will back, is that he finally includes him in his life. He accepts his limitations, and he says, maybe I can't do this by myself, but that's okay, because I can do this with my son. And that as a father, that's so huge for me, right? And it immediately makes me think of my son going, Dad, I promise I won't hurt you.
So I got a two-part question for you guys. Like, in that scene, how much did it mean to you when you read it as a kid that it was clear that, or how much did it resonate with you that he was treating Will as an equal as a child versus now as a father or as an adult? And how, and like, in which way did that, like, because that was one of the core parts, is like, I just understood his perspective on his son in a way that, I that as an older man you can't. And I don't have kids, but I still can feel it.
As a kid, as a 13-year-old, as a very maudlin, wearing only black 13-year-old, that was that scene for me, that said that I can connect with my father, that he can show me something that might be important, and maybe my role in it is a minor role, because what Will essentially does is he's the stand for the rifle. He puts the rifle on Will's shoulder and stabilizes and balances it that way so he can take the shot. But it's key, it's crucial. He couldn't have done it without it. And it made me start to look at my dad in a different light, in a different perspective. But not anywhere near to the point where now as a father and going back and reading this and reading that passage, it makes me go, it makes me think, am I doing enough of that with my own kid? Am I giving him the autonomy where he and I work together so that he's learning these lessons by doing with me and creating that connection, right? And cementing that lesson in his head because he did it with his dad rather than trying to figure it out on his own. And so it makes me reevaluate what I should do as a father to include him more in those kinds of things and make him a part of the processes that I deal with on a day-to-day basis.
I think for me, it is a constant reminder of the evolution of the love of my father.
Yeah.
My father is going to turn 84. I've always thought that my relationship to my father was close, but I also see in that relationship the ups and downs, for lack of a better word, the celebrations and the foibles, the stable places and the cracks, the solid ground and the crevasses of a relationship that a father and a son have. Charles reminds me of my father deeply. My father is, like I said, he's turning 84 next year. My mother passed away a number of years ago, but my father, and I feel like in the years since my mother passed away, and you never knew my mother, but you know my father.
Yep.
And I feel like that, and maybe this sounds like a cliche, but I feel like my relationship with my father has been a chapter by chapter evolution of what a father and son have to go through. I feel like my son now, who's 15, just like Mark's, our sons are good friends.
Yep.
And I feel like every day I have a new line written in that journal with my son. One day it's really, it's excellent, it's awesome, we're going to wrestle, we're going to love each other.
Right.
The next day it's like, oh my God, Dad, get away from me, I don't want to see you.
You're so stupid, Dad. Why would you even say that?
And his own, my son's own, my son's own emotional tug of war with being a 15-year-old adolescent boy. Does he always think of himself as a good person? Is he navigating the world of adolescence okay? Did I navigate my own adolescence okay? And am I giving him the experiences that I had to hopefully help him through some of those challenging parts? Because adolescence today is a way different experience than you, Joe, or you, Mark, or I had when we were adolescents in the 80s, right?
There's no evidence of what we did.
Right. There's no evidence. This is a different world. And so I think your question is really, really good because it just reminds me that my father and I have evolved and Charles and Will evolved.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that's really important to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it was the moment of the exchange. So it's Charles, it's Will returning to Charles, and it's Charles saying, I'm not. It's more than just a teacher at that moment. It's a peer.
Yeah.
And to me, it was like that was the thing is that Charles is, and I love him so much, but he. Oh my God! Could you imagine being in a car with that man for too long? He would just go on and on. Yeah. It would be like a church sermon over everything. Like he's a great philosophical character to read, but like to be that man's son. Oh my God! Stop teaching, Dad. Yeah, but that was the moment to me where he kind of takes Will and is like, "No, I need you. You have to come to me because I'm not going to make it without you." And I truly don't think Charles would have.
Yeah. Well, he stops teaching and he starts living, and he starts including his son in his own life.
That's a great point. He starts living. He's not as distracted by his own. Yeah.
I mean,
his own knowledge. Yeah.
My dad passed away in 2017, and at the time I think I was 37, something like that. Maybe
8 years ago. So
maybe in my 40s. I guess I was in 42. Yeah. And I remember that he and we were close when I was a little kid. And then we stopped being close, and we weren't close again until I was about 30, until shortly after I got married. I got married. I had my first child when I was 33, and all of a sudden, my dad was back in my life, and he wanted to be involved. He wanted to be a part of things, and for years, my dad played on the amateur golf circuit, and right, he was a salesman in contract manufacturing. He did like spa kits and lotions and sunscreens and stuff like that. But what he would do is he would arrange his business trips around the amateur tour. And so he would fly in, he would give the customer a ticket to the tour, to the game. He would go and compete, and he'd win some cash or a TV or something like that. And then he'd take the customer out to dinner, and he'd get the contract signed, and he'd move on to the next one. But so because he was always gone, he would be gone for like 2-3 weeks at a time, and golfing was always involved. I always was reticent about the idea of golfing. And then when I was 33 with my first kid, and in the industry that I was in, golfing was kind of part of the job. And so I said, "Can you teach me to golf?" And that became a new emergence for our relationship. And he very sneakily we would be talking about, your swing, your stance, which club to use. And then he would be like, "So how's your marriage?" So, I've had 2 heart attacks. Have you had your cholesterol checked? And for years he did stuff like that. He's the reason why I went to the doctor. He's the reason why I got my cholesterol checked. He's the reason why I went on a statin drug. And he had his first heart attack in his 30s. I'm 50. I haven't had a heart attack yet. He did those things for me, but he did them.
Hopefully never.
Yeah, hopefully never. He did those things for me in a way where he wasn't necessarily teaching me a lesson. He was just involving me in his own life and what he was going through, and through that he was able to teach me a lesson. I am so grateful to the days that I had with him up until he passed, and to this day, I still every now and then have dreams about him where the dream is like, "Yeah, I just thought I would come and check in with you and see what's going on." It's nice. It's nice that we had that relationship before he passed away. Yeah, and it very much reminds me of Charles at the end of the book.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is just the sweetness that eventually, I think, a lot of father-son relationships end up. I want to say it's so funny because you kind of slide into it, I don't know my dad real well, but I was largely raised with a father figure of a man named Chandler who means the world to me. And I really looked at, and I went from looking up to him to seeing him as a friend, to really understanding the value that he contributed in my life. And he still is someone I talk to every week, and I'm proud when he calls me son. It's just how it goes. And to see those qualities, that sweetness that was always allotted me in someone like Charles, made me really beloved to him. Now, one of the great things about Chandler is I don't think he ever worries about, or at least for a long time didn't worry about being too old or something like that. He just was always fun, Yeah. So, or at least that's the perception that the young man I got was. Yeah. But what really kind of, brought that whole aspect back to me was just this, at the time it was written to, is a really different portrayal of men than I would expect to see. Yeah. And I mean, come on, I've read a lot of novels from 1962. No one, right? And it's I'm not going to say that. I'm going to take that back. It's not about men. It's about people.
We're men, and women love them.
Right.
But it's
a different time. It's a different way.
Yeah. It's and
there were different roles. There were different roles. Yeah.
In between the poetic weird ass writing, the really undefined concepts of good and evil. But at the core of it is just about fathers trying to be kinder and more engaged as the actual message. Yeah. It's a wild thing for
Yeah.
for somebody to
1962,
do.
yeah.
Right.
For 1962.
Absolutely.
And again, it's just
Will's dad
it's
is like
just-
the most progressive dad ever in
At that
1962.
time, yeah.
yeah, and it's in the real joy in it though has been the time in which I didn't read it, where I
Yeah.
didn't. I will say this: I've gone and reread a lot of books. You know, I will every once in a while reread Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
do a lot of wonder. I don't do a lot of wondering about that book and where it's been in the in between, but there was always something about Something Wicked This Way Comes that in the 35 years I didn't read it, it never really got too far away. It was always kind of close.
Yes.
And,
yes.
and part of that I have to say is also just the movie was, I think, my first experience with esoteric, with like existential
Yes.
fear and
Yeah.
what that can mean. So, if you don't want to read this incredibly short, enjoyable book, for the love of God, just go watch the great movie. It's probably the best.
right.
Both.
Right.
Do both.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna dive into that in a second, but
Or
one of the things that I wanted to say was, for me, throughout my children's life, I every now and then, or probably more often than every now and then, I ask myself, okay, am I a good dad today?
Mhm.
Am I doing the right things? Am I reacting the right way? And sometimes I could say yes, and sometimes I could say no. But the validation for me was I turned 50 this year, and on my 50th birthday, I've got two daughters, an older and a younger, and my son is in between.
Yep.
My son went out, bought his own birthday card, and he wrote in the card himself, and he said, Dad, I'm so glad that you've been my father all this time, but I'm even more excited that now you're finally becoming my friend.
Yeah.
Right? That just,
Good
yeah,
stuff.
that does what it does. Yeah. That's the validation I've been looking for decades right there. I can't
That's something.
I can't
really
think of
good.
anything better that somebody could say to me.
Yeah. That's got to feel amazing.
Yeah. It's just
What
it's
happened
just
to your
so
life?
cool.
Your life's just went out. What's going
Yeah,
on?
I know, right? I think a fuse just blew.
It was getting entirely too many feelings. It was like
Right,
the entire feels. They just
The
had to
emotions
stop.
are so powerful that it blew out the circuit.
The ghost of Ray Bradbury just decided to turn that
Right.
off. Couldn't handle it.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest with you. Jason Robards is everybody's. He's like one of the best
Right.
dads.
Jason Robards is everybody's dad. He's everybody's dad.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
What's our next pour?
Oh, we've got the single malt.
All right. This is this is I'm gonna just why the hell not? I mean, you talk about dads, you talk about father figures, and kind of the guys that have meant something to you in your life, and one of them for me, I've been really lucky. Lots of really really great guys have been around me. One of them was a guy named Steve McCarthy. He gave me my first job. He was the master.
Okay.
He was the guy who started Clear Creek Distillery, and he also made American Single Malt. He released in 1996 McCarthy's Oregon Single Malt, which is, as far as anyone can figure, the first American single malt. And I honestly was one of the later people to learn that, even while at the time running McCarthy's. Like, it was just something that like someone from marketing had mentioned it to me, and I was the guy making it. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And but we sat down with whiskey. We sat down at the time with Whiskey Advocate and like tried to trace it back. And yeah, like it's by all records the first American single malt. And so when we drink American single malt and you talk to me, I can't help but kind of get a little bit personal about the whole thing, because this is about people that have sent you the right way. There's no way for me as a human to be able to talk about American single malt without saying Steve McCarthy made this. He's also a good man. He gave me healthcare, and that was a rare thing.
Healthcare is amazing, isn't it?
And he was when I was in my consulting years, he was a number I could always call, and he gave me good advice, and he always supported me. So
That's
American
awesome.
Single Malt's really a lot about Steve McCarthy. But our American Single Malt is, this is another expression of the lanes. Everybody at the distillery, the American Single Malt is the most personal to all of us.
Yeah,
I think it's the more than anyone. This is another one with John and the distillers, Bryce and Noya, Chelsea, where this is something we've all been working on for a very long time, and so that aspect of the apricots, the honey, those really nice notes that come from the Oloroso sherry. This is supposed to be complex, and where McCarthy's was really smoky and peated. It's a very different thing because that's more of an Isla style than kind of the Speyside style you'll try there. And I bring this up for a reason. Yeah, because American Single Malt is going to represent all of America, and I want everybody to just be aware that like we're going to have really really cool little like microcosms of flavorful things.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've brought it up, I think, on every podcast, but the Striker by Andalusian Distilling is an American Single Malt that's smoked with Texas barbecue woods. Like, that's a direct line to culinary influence, and that's cool.
Wow, that's got to be good. That's got to be good.
So this is another one that's going to be coming right from barley that we malt ourselves in this edition, and aged in a rickhouse that's climate controlled to Belinda Loch, Scotland. Because I haven't really gone into the rickhouse thing, but we have to climate control our rickhouses.
So I had sent an email. I had sent an email to Aaron at the time, and I had said that we had received all the 3 bottles, and that we immediately tried the single malt. And the reason why we did was because over the course of the last 5 years, we've had, I think, maybe 3 bottles that were labeled as single malt. Mm-hmm. And we did not talk about them on the show because we don't belittle anybody's product. And so I won't say the names.
Yeah, we don't critique.
Yeah, I won't say the names of the labels. If we don't like it, we just don't talk about it. Right. But there were 3 bottles that we did not talk about that were labeled as single malt. And they tasted to us kind of like pancake batter. It was
That was the unfortunate aftertaste that made it very difficult to drink.
Right. And then we tried the Minden Mill single malt, and I remember I tried it first.
I mean, this thing is.
And I sent Steven a text message, which was, "Oh my God, it's amazing!"
Let's raise a glass.
So before we continue, let's raise a glass to the.
This is going to be going out to honestly to the folks at Minden, and also to Johnny Jeffrey. He was a huge part of this one. That's one of the great things about working with your friends, even across distilleries, is that like
we salute them as well.
Yeah, you get to call out all the people that's like, you're in the past, but I remember what it's like I knew that I knew you were part of this too. Like it's really fun.
Absolutely. This has restored our faith in single malt American whiskey.
This is lovely.
This is so
man.
It is honey.
Oh geez, there's so much you got to go try. You got to get it. Whatever you do immediately, you got to go get something called the Quintessential from Cedar Ridge.
Okay.
Just go get it immediately, and then if you want Murphy on the show, he's smart, and I think he knows how to.
I think I've seen that on the shelf.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. The Quintessential.
Murphy's got at least a 5th grade reading experience. I'm pretty sure.
We definitely need to tag him on that.
Yeah. No, it's a little bit of a challenge. I'm not lying. I know he's a great guy, and honestly, the Quintessential is like one of those just amazing single malts that I was turned on to by the folks at Lost Lantern. Yeah. I'm gonna name drop everyone who I think I want. I'm gonna try to call out as many cool people as I want, because I want people to know that they're out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, like the folks at the Independent Baller, Lost Lantern, they do great work too, and introduced me to the Quintessential, and I immediately thought that's one of the best American single malts I'm ever going to have. So, and he's a really smart, fun guy.
Well, this
He'd be a
ranks
great
the top
interview.
of our list and some of our
Right.
future tasting for our small little podcast.
We will definitely try the Quintessential, but this, so far in our experience, this
brings
best.
it to the top for us.
This really is amazing.
So, okay. Again, American single malt is about trying to get a real solid expression. And it's about the freedom that the barrels allow you. So I can talk all about my personal stuff with Steve, blah, blah, blah. Let's move on. The reality is that because of the barrel program you can put into it, you can get a really amazing flavor profile that you don't get in other whiskeys. And that because we're using these 4 barrels of new American oak, used bourbon, the Shave Toast Reachar wine barrels, so they're kind of like, those are right. Yeah. There's some wine in there, but there's not a lot. But it's like because you're doing this long aging, you are happy for that. Right. And then also Oloroso sherry, and so it's a mix of those with mostly 53 gallons, except for the sherry butts, which are 90s and 100s. And that is all aged at a climate-controlled rickhouse to Belinda Loch, Scotland. And the reason we do that, I know. I kind of like blurred this out earlier, but the reason why we do that is that the local humidity is really low. It's at 11% absolute humidity across the year.
Kind of normal.
And if we were losing like 5% to angel share every month when we were trying to mature in that local humidity. Yeah. And for us, it was really just about trying to survive in that one. And if you're going to climate control something, like, no doubt, if you're going to design any whiskey, you're going to say, I like XYZ. So if you're like, hey, I like whiskeys that are aged in that region, it turns out, well, you climate control it to that region. So Belinda Loch, Scotland, and also Bardstown, Kentucky for the bourbon.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So when you've
had a couple of fusions,
when you walk into that rickhouse, is it like stepping onto a different planet?
Yes. As much as you can, depending on how aggressive the weather is outside. Yes, but it's pretty remarkably different, and I genuinely like being in the Belinda Loch, Scotland rickhouse end of it a lot more than any of the others. It's cold, it's kind of humid, it's definitely
a little bit of How many rickhouses do you have on the property? How many rickhouses do you have on here?
Two.
Okay.
2. It's just the bourbon and rye, and then the American single. And honestly,
and that climate control itself has to be a science in and of itself. Researching that climate, being able to have that system in place in the rickhouse, and being able to modulate that in the way that you're doing it. Yeah.
It's data tied to averages off of a weather station. It's
actually
a little.
That's amazing.
It's actually a little bit more straightforward than you would think. I mean,
but that's amazing. That's amazing. Just to have.
I don't know how to build a computer, so I don't know exactly.
So the people who are doing that, shout out to them, right? Yeah, right.
Oh my God, yeah. No, there's nothing but geniuses put this place together.
So the thing that I really wanted to talk about as we're kind of moving into the last portion of our show is I wanted to talk about time. Over the course of the last 5 years, Stephen and I have waxed on and on and on about time.
I even journal about it. I journal about time.
Journal about time. The vagaries of time. Whether time is a friend or time is a thief or time is or time is a myth. And what I like about one of the things that resonates with me about Something Wicked This Way Comes is how time isn't necessarily a thief or an antagonist, but time is a fulcrum, right? Sure. And you have a device or a machine that can either push you forward in time, or it can give you back time, but you don't. But for each of us as an individual, we don't get a choice, right? Yeah. Every day happens. We get older. We get grayer. we can think about the things that we have done in the past, but we can never go back and change any of it.
Yep.
And for me, over the course of the last 5 years, one of the things that I have really enjoyed about whiskeys in general is the idea that we kind of literally have time in a bottle.
That's right.
Right.
We're tasting something.
Right.
That has been journing.
Right. For 4 years or 6 years or 15 years,
10,
whatever it happens to be. Right. And I love the idea, and this is kind of where the whole podcast came from, was the idea that we could sit down, we could read some literature that makes our brains active, makes us think about things, and then we can sip this time in a glass, and we can expand upon what we have already thought of. We can, in a way, because the sipping of the whiskey slows us down. It gives us more time back, more time to think about the things that we've talked about, to think about the things that we've read, to think about the things that we've experienced, to share those things together. Our kind of our tagline is what we're reading, what we're drinking, and why it brings us joy. And that's really one of the reasons why we do this, is because this is kind of a catalyst for us. The book and the bourbon or the whiskey or the rye, whatever it happens to be, together, those two things together with the fire pit and friends and stories,
cold weather,
it makes us live in the moment.
Yep.
Right. It makes us live in the moment.
I think first of all, you couldn't have described better my ideal, like when I feel most connected with what the purpose of what we do as distillers is.
Yeah.
It's alcohol's a complicated thing. But what you described is something that I think is really honest and human, and still very positive, is that level of connection and slowing things down. And so I thank you for that, because I sometimes forget that myself, and I think I had for a little while. So
it's something that we genuinely, Mark and I met shortly before about 3 years before the pandemic. Right.
Yeah. We were serving
volunteers. We were
serving on the local library foundation board.
Right. And we met while we were serving in a volunteer capacity, and we would chat a little bit in the parking lot on the way out from meetings, and we realized that we both had 3 children. We both had 2 girls and 1 boy. The boy is in the middle on both of our families.
Yep.
We both are in industries that are, high stress, high action, and this was our way. And prior to the pandemic, we would just sit in his backyard and talk about books,
right,
and sip on bourbon. And then we're like, the pandemic hit, and we're like, you know what, we're gonna put this into a modality, into a way,
right,
in which we can bring a voice to the time and to the things that we enjoy so much.
So every other week I'd be at his house, and then every other week he'd be at my house, and we'd be sitting by a fire pit, and we'd be drinking a different whiskey, and we'd be talking about a book that we're both reading at the same time.
Right.
And finally, at some point along the way, one of us said, what we should do? We should record ourselves and see if we're as funny as we think we are.
No. The reality is that, heck, man, if people drink my whiskey and talk about books, nothing is going to make me happier. That is
right. It's fabulous, Joe. It's fabulous.
I certainly really don't want you. These are things I don't want you doing when drinking my whiskey. Water skiing.
Yeah. I can't do that even when I don't drink. Yeah.
Free climbing.
Right.
Hitting on people, like any of those things. But reading and talking about books, please do it.
Let's do it.
So to me, that to me is you've really clued into something that's kind of been personal for me. And why I've been so excited to do this podcast. As you can tell, I'm into this.
it really got us. It really got us through the times, through the challenges of that time of COVID, and then it brought us closer as friends. It brought our families closer. Although I don't believe that our wives have ever listened to an episode of our podcast.
Not a one,
And,
not a single one.
And nor do our kids listen to our podcast. Oh,
No.
they've been guests on there.
I'm pretty sure that Christopher has listened to some of
Christian
them.
has had a couple, yeah.
Christopher has listened to some of them.
Kids are almost named the same thing.
Yes.
Christopher and Christian, right? Those are our sons, right?
Yeah.
Have you read before I forget, you brought time up. Have you read, this is a suggestion from us, it's one of our episodes, The Order of Time by Carlo Rovelli.
No, that sounds great.
He's a theoretical physicist. He's written a couple books. There's another one called White Holes, which is a theory that tags onto the idea of the other side of a black hole.
So he's one of the physicists that is looking for the Hawking, theory of everything, right? And
right.
so he's one of the founders of the theory called quantum loop gravity,
right?
And it has to do with the relationship between gravity and time. And so there's this book called The Order of Time.
It's fantastic. 2017.
It's absolutely fantastic. It doesn't, and Rovelli being Italian, and he says this himself, being Italian, he can't just write like a textbook. He references everything back to Greek philophers,
Dante,
and Italian.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. You got to add that to your TBR list.
It's
a fabulous book. And one of our episodes, I believe it was season 1.
I think it's season 1.
So if you go back to season 1,
I wrote it directly onto the wood of this. I wrote it directly onto the wood of this workbench. Like it's there.
I like that. I like that.
That's also just kind of how I treat my workbench.
I like that.
There's a shopping list over here too.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Excellent. So we've been going for a little while here, and we still got to do an oops-isode with you.
Gosh, we've been going for almost 2 hours. How are you feeling? Are you okay?
An hour and
I'm having a blast.
Okay, this is fabulous.
Okay, good.
Fabulous.
So let's do an oops-isode.
But we're going to do the oops-isode. So we're going to bring this episode to a close, and then we'll do the oops-isode, which is something that we haven't talked about yet. I would recommend we maybe talk about the Dust Witch during the oops-isode. That's our oops-isode. And then we can go back to one of the bourbons.
Yes.
Back to the Nevada Straight Bourbon. So at the end of the show, all right, so we do a final thoughts here. Okay?
Yeah.
So we're going to ask for a final thoughts from you on the book and final thoughts from you on the bourbons that you have shared.
Any one of the whiskeys that we've had.
The whiskeys that we've shared. So Joe, final thoughts on the book. Ray Bradbury, Something Wicked This Way Comes.
10 out of 10 book. It's not just it shouldn't just. He's one of the great American authors. We didn't even lose him not that long ago. And if you read it, you will see the influence on this and everything from Stephen King, who definitely borrowed a lot from this book, to even if you're into kind of like some of the more meaningful indie games, like there's a lot of influence on this on a game I love called Night in the Woods.
Yeah.
That is just so special to me and so important. And in that, there's a quote that feels like it could have been directly out of this book, which is, I believe in a world that doesn't care and people who do, which is a little bit more of a contemporary version of something Charles might have said.
Wow.
So,
wow.
I really, the legs this book has are pretty long.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on the book from you, Mark.
So it's funny. Bradbury was very versatile, right? And he did genre fiction, but he did fantasy, he did sci-fi. He kind of crossed over between the two. Something Wicked This Way Comes is one of my formative stories that I've ever read. The other one is The Martian Chronicles. And I read The Martian Chronicles before I read Something Wicked This Way Comes, and that The Martian Chronicles probably sparked my imagination before anything else. And really, I've been kind of obsessed with the idea of time since I was a kid, and
Clearly that has impacted our podcast. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the Martian Chronicles for me is one of the first things that was my gateway drug, right?
Yeah.
The story about the human who encounters the Martian, and they both think that they're extinct. They both think that they're ghosts, right? And they're existing in this kind of this liminal space where when one is living in one timeline and one is living in the other. That was huge for me. And then something wicked this way comes, the duality of good and evil, the duality between innocence and knowledge, and the loss that comes with knowledge and the understanding that comes with knowledge. Those two stories really had a huge impact on me in terms of how I saw the world, how I conducted my life, and to this day, still, I love any type of literature that talks about the impact and the vagaries of time at the same time, all at once. And so for me, something wicked this way comes is not necessarily is not a fantasy, but it's an exploration of ourselves, and I love that.
Entirely.
And you can ask me.
Yeah, what's up with you?
Yeah, what do you think?
I feel like Ray Bradbury had a conversation with me when I was 15, and then he went away for the vast majority of my life.
Right?
And now I'm about to turn 52 in May of next year. And with the reading of this book, it was almost as if Ray Bradbury was sitting on my living room couch and waiting for me to return to the book. I have not read this book in 30 years.
Yeah.
And he waited for me to return to it, and he gave me a different perspective on the way that it was written. And I think I value that more than even the book itself. Because I don't think you can have, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, when I teach my students The Little Prince every year, it's a different reading of that book than I had the previous year with the previous students. And I think if a book is able to do that, is able to wait for you, then that's the book that you want to have in your life.
Dagnabbit, Stephen, why are you making me emotional?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah. So
can I ask
yeah.
Sorry. Maybe I'll save it for the Oops.
You can ask anything you want. Ask away.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Here's my question. Will this book be lost because it really does factor into concepts of a pre-digital age, where when they talked about who has more pockets than a magician, a boy, who has more in their pockets, a boy.
Right.
Yeah.
My gosh, I love that line.
If we are now in a time where so much of just kind of being lost and being not known where you are, and the danger and the excitement of that is gone, for a time where people are so captivated by phones, tablets.
Well, but I to your point.
So let me just ask you this: is it going to go away? And then two, when I read it the second time, I tried to keep a little bit of that lens on it. Like, is this book dying itself? And how does that change the messaging?
Well, we could make that our episode.
Wow.
But I think it's incumbent upon us, you, me, Mark, podcasts, conversations, to keep those types of books alive.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I think that is the journey that we are on by doing the things that bring us joy. What we're reading, what we're drinking, and why it's bringing us joy.
Yeah.
I think that's incumbent upon me as a teacher when I teach the 80-year-old book that I teach to my students.
Right.
And I think that's just part of a narrative that we have to keep moving forward with. Because I agree with you.
I think that is the perfect topic for the Oops-sode. So we can devote a good 15, 20, 45 minutes
We're doing 15 minutes or less on the episode.
Let's go. Let's go for 15 minutes or less. My wife and I are going on vacation in the morning. I want to get up early.
That's right. That's right. We're 15 minutes or less.
The oops
That's
episodes are
what we are.
supposed to be 15 minutes
Yes.
or less. We have not
No.
been keeping to
Yes,
that
we
very
have.
well
We're
lately.
keeping it. We're keeping it that way.
But we're gonna try for it. We're
All
gonna.
right, we are going to close this out so we can get to the oops episode. So thank you, Joe, for joining us on Beards, Books, and Bourbon tonight. We
Yes.
appreciate you spending time away from your family and your moments at home to be with us on Beards, Books, and Bourbon. Thank you as well for the incredibly generous bottles of bourbon that we have been able to taste this evening.
Oh my gosh, yes.
The Nevada Straight Bourbon Whiskey, the American Single Malt, which is out of this world.
Out of this world.
And the Nevada Straight Rye Whiskey. We appreciate you sharing your story with us tonight on Beards, Books, and Bourbon. And make sure you check us out on all our social media, wherever you find us. We are on Instagram. We are on TikTok.
Insta.
We are on
Tick, tick.
YouTube. We are on Facebook.
You.
We are all over the place.
Face.
Check us out. Thank you very much for being with us tonight, Joe.
I'm so happy to be here, man. Yeah, I look forward to this for.
This has been awesome.
This has been
been so much fun.
Awesome.
So yeah, let's do it again at some point.
Definitely going to be back on the show.
Oh, good.
And,
I'll find some other really gush-worthy book that we can talk about.
we
for
can,
an hour, 2 hours.
absolutely. We can gush about that.
Absolutely.
And remember, whether you are in September, October, or November, if you're not listening to Beards, Books, and Bourbon,
You're doing it wrong.
good night, everybody.
Good night.